Hello everyone, I am Dr. Hiren Panora. I am a pediatric radiologist working at NHSRCC Mumbai, that's a children's hospital. So today I'll be presenting to you about the basics of the CT, the reading and interpretation of the CT chest, and emphasis of airway with evaluation using CT. So our outline of the today's talk will be going through these headings. First, I'll be talking a brief about the basics of the CT and various reconstructed techniques. Then I'll be going through the indications and practical applications of the CT, followed by regional anatomy and HRCT terminologies, and role of CT airway evaluation with exemplary cases. So what is CT scan? So the CT scan, it uses the X-rays to obtain the images. And we'll be going through this video that it uses this kind of single source or dual source X-ray tube through which the X-ray passes through and it goes across the body, and that has been captured by this kind of readers, which are the detectors. And in the current era with multi-detector technology, we have this kind of spiral CT concept. So the spiral CT concept indicates that it's a single radiation or dual radiation source with multiple detectors on the opposite side. They are rotating across the body, and the scanner goes from the cranial to the caudal or caudal to cranial aspect and obtains this data. And this data has been interpolated and into the computer, and which reconstruct and gives us the axial and various 3D volumetric imaging. So that's how the CT scan functions. So the basic advantage of using CT scan is that we can get multiple 2D images and in various angulations, and ultimately we reconstruct the 3D outcome of that 2D images. So what are the planes of the CT scan? So CT scan, usually we have this kind of three basic planes: the axial, coronal, and sagittal. So the axial plane is like as if we are seeing cutting the body like this way and into the superior and the inferior part. The coronal plane indicates that it's a vertical plane in which we are going across the body from the anterior to the posterior aspect, and the sagittal plane is the longitudinal plane in which we are going through the body from right side to left side, as shown in these images. A few words regarding the CT contrast. So the CT contrast we use are the water soluble low osmolality contrast, and they can be injected either IV route or intrathecal or the oral usage. These are the two contrasts which are used in practice very often. That is the Omnipac and the Visipac. The Visipac being more renal friendly. And there are some absolute and relative contraindication of the CT scan. So we should ask the careful history of any severe bronchospasm or any history of allergy before administering the IV contrast, which is very important. Now, something regarding the phases of the scan. So the phases of the scan refers to the time when the images are taken at the after the administration of the contrast. So there are four basic phases of the scan. One is the non-contrast, other is the arterial, venous, and delayed. Usually, we take chest imaging in the arterial phase. In abdomen, the venous phase is important for the interpretation. And when we are dealing with some tumors or liver lesions or vascular malformations, the dynamic or multiple phases scans will be required. So these are the examples of the plain, arterial, and the venous phase. In which the arterial phase, we are able to see that the contrast opacified aorta and the celiac trunk, as we can see here. And in the venous phase, we can see the opacification of the portal vein and the IVC. So this is the basic difference between the plain arterial and the venous phase. Now, another important thing is the HU value. That is the HU stands for the Hounsfield units, and it indicates the CT number, and it generally indicates the density of the tissue and its absorption capacity of the X-ray. So the tissue which are less dense, like air, they will have minus HU value, as we can see here that it indicated on the blacker side of the spectrum. And the things which are more dense, like the bones, they will have higher HU values, something around the plus 1000 values. So that brings us to the what is a window width and the what is window level in the CT scan. Before that, I'll be talking you about the examples of the different soft tissue structures in the body and their HU values. So, for example, fat has got minus 100 value, and water being 0 HU value, and calcium and metal will be having higher side of values, as we can see here. So I was talking about the window width and the window level. So this window width is the range of the density, and the window level is the center of that window width. For example, if you want to see the soft tissue window, which has density range in mostly in the plus between 0 to 100. So we should be putting our window level, the center of the width should be in the 50 range. So we will be able to see the soft tissues and the muscles and the chest wall. However, we won't be able to see the lung in this window. This is the example of lung window in which we will be keeping the window level in the minus 200 HU so that it concentrate more on the low attenuated area. So we'll be able to see this kind of gray appearance of the lung as well as the pneumothorax. Note that the window range for the lung window is very high. And similarly, this is the window level and the window width for the bone. It should be higher on the spectrum as window level will be 300. Since the bone has got higher HU, so we want to see the cortex and medulla better. So that is the appropriate HU values and window width and level for the bone window. Now, what is the difference between the routine CT and the HRCT? So as we all know that CT works virally and it goes from the top to bottom and it requires data slides way it's indicated by this arrow. But what happens to this kind of in-between slides information? In routine CT volumetric images, the software, it interpolates the in-between slide images also, and that is being shown into the final ultimate outcome as a volumetric images. So the advantage of using this technique is that we are not losing any information. Each part of the lung is being scanned. In contrary, in the conventional HRCT techniques, we had this kind of slice level, and in between there will be some gap of the lung, which is not being scanned at that in that scan. So what happens then at particular slide, we'll be seeing that part of the lung with nice architecture and nice contrast resolution, but we can miss this kind of important information. For example, you can take this star as a small nodule, so we can miss this kind of small nodules if we take HRCT. But with the era of the multi-detector and the newer technology, the HRCT also can be reconstructed from with this volumetric data, and it can generate those kind of nice, crisp, high resolution images from this data so that we don't miss any nodules or any significant findings. So that's the example showing the difference between the routine lung window and the HRCT lung window. We can see that it is nicely, the pulmonary architecture we can see nicely with this kind of airways and very sharp and crisp images. There are a few other applications of the CT in which we can use. For example, this is the mini pre-constructed images. So the mini stands for minimal intensity projection images. It is based on the principle of exaggerating the low attenuation density areas. For example, airways, for example, cyst and emphysema and bronchiectasis, they will be highlighted on this reconstructed technique. So we can use to evaluate those kind of areas. This is another technique, that is the MIP projection, that is the maximal intensity projection technique. It highlights the structures or the organs which have been opacified with contrast or which are having higher density. So it highlights those kind of structures, and it is very useful in the evaluation of the pulmonary or any angio vessels. As well as it is also useful to differentiate between the pulmonary vessel branch and the nodule, as we can see here. On the left side, we can see these are the volume rendered CT reconstructed technique. It is very useful before surgery, and cardiac surgeons and all, they always like this kind of 3D orientation of the structures, especially the heart, before planning any surgery. These are a few other reconstructed techniques, which gives you the overall idea of the lung volumes, as we can see here. And this is the image which is giving idea about the airway, their diameter and the severity of narrowing, as we can see here. So a few words about the virtual bronchoscopy. So virtual bronchoscopy, it's a newly developed technique which is not used that much frequently, in which what happens that it gives images like a virtual bronchoscope, as if we are passing through the inner lumen of the airway. And we can, by this technique, we can see that like inner mucosa, inner luminal detail, as well as any areas of narrowing or any foreign body lying in the airway, that we can see better on this virtual bronchoscopy images. Now moving on to the cardiac CT, which is very important in the pediatric age group. So the cardiac CT, they are not indicated in all population, but of course they are indicated when you want to assess the extracardiac anomalies, when there is a pulmonary hypertension which cannot be explained by the echo in terms of pulmonary architecture, and you want to see any airway anomaly which are being compressed. In that aspect, cardiac CT is very important. But there are few preparation before the cardiac CT. For example, we should be knowing where to place the ECG leads on the chest wall. As well as one should have the vital monitoring device inside in situ in the CT area, which constantly measures the heart rate and observes the fluctuations, which is very important during the cardiac CT. And the small babies or small children who cannot be staying for the scan motionless, in which we have to use sedation, and for that appropriate fasting should be obtained at least for 3 to 4 hours. Um, Another important thing that when we are doing cardiac CT, it's preferred that the injection should be done through the leg veins, because whenever we use the upper limb veins, there it creates a lot of artifact at the SVG level, and we want to avoid that. And we should always give the contrast through the pressor injector so that appropriate density of the contrast reaches the heart when we are scanning the scan. And one more thing, that we can use this kind of binder to immobilize the child so that the motion is less and we get nice images. A CT room should be equipped with this kind of emergency trolley and this appropriate antiseptic solutions whenever it is needed. We can use it. So the good pillars of taking images in pediatric setups would be a radiologist and anesthetist with equipped instruments and drugs, a sound radiology technicians who knows how to do ECG getting and all, a trained nursing staff. So these all are very essential for the good images. Radiation, of course, CT uses radiation and we want to avoid as slow as possible based on LRA principle. So CT must be weighed in pediatric population. And these are the examples of the radiation given by particular CT. For example, chest CT gives 3 millisievert radiation and so on. So now moving on to the second topic, that is the indications and practical applications of the CT. So the CT used in different organ like CT chest, abdomen, CT angiogram, which the indication I'm not going to detail. It also used for assessment of the brain, MSK indications, as well as neck and temporal bone in pediatric age group. Uh, a few indications of the HRCT lung. So when you want to do HRCT lung in case of fibrosis or interstitial lung disease, connective tissue disorder or bronchiectasis, in those kind of things, you should do HRCT lungs. When to use contrast CT, when to use contrast in the CT thorax. So when you are suspecting the vascular rings or mediastinal or chest wall mass, if any suspected pulmonary sequestration is there, or you want to assess the adenopathy in terms of TB, those kind of things, you can assess the contrast. Now moving on to the regional anatomy and the glossary of the HRCT chest terminology. So we'll be briefly seeing the anatomy on the CT on these structures: mediastinum, thymus, lobes, great vessels, chambers, etc. So this is the mediastinal window, and it's a post-contrast scan. We are going from the cranial end to the caudal end, from neck to the upper abdomen. And as we are going sequentially, as for example, this image, we can see that trachea is outlined by the thyroid in the lower neck, and which is surrounded by this kind of carotid vessels. As we go lower down, we'll be seeing on either side by this kind of high density clavicles, and that is the superior part of the mediastinum. These are the lung which may not be assessed. And here in this image, we can see that this is the anterior part, this is the posterior part, that is the right side, and this is the left side of the body. And this is the left innominate vein, which is entering into the SVC, and these are the great vessels arising of the arch. These are the chest wall muscles. This is the axilla region. So as we go lower down, these are the paratracheal node station. Edge of aorta has come right now, and bronchial division we can see. At this level, we can see now that the pulmonary artery is being slightly anterior and to the left to the aortic wall, and this is the bifurcation of the pulmonary artery, and these are the division of the right and left main bronchus. Now we are going down towards the cardiac chamber levels, and that is, as you see, RA junction, left atrium has come, and this is the section which is showing that cardiac chambers. So the right sided cardiac chambers will be on the right side, and the left sided cardiac chambers will be on the left side. So this is the RV, that is the right atrium, as we can see on the post contrast images. This is the esophagus, which will be lying adjacent to the descending aorta, and this is the IVC hepatic veins, that is the liver, this is the spleen, and this is the collapsed stomach. So that's how the mediastinal window looks like. Now moving on to the lung window. So lung window, you should be able to consider it first as an airway, as a nice circular airfield structure in the central part, and on either side then we'll see this kind of upper part of the bilateral upper lobes, which is having this kind of normal peripheral tapering of bronchovascular markings with adjacent bronchus. As the trachea lower downs, it divides into first in right upper lobe bronchus, as we can see here, and sorry. So it divides into the right upper lobe bronchus, then further divides into the right main bronchus and the lower lobe bronchus, as we can see here. Now, just want to highlight the lobar anatomy at the cardiac chamber level. So this is the lobar anatomy at the cardiac chamber level, in which we can see that the heart level on the right side, this will be the right middle lobe, and on the left side, this will be lingula, and posteriorly will be the lower lobes. And then they are separated by this kind of thin white strip that is the major feature of the lung, which separates the upper lobes from the lower lobes. And these are the bronchovascular markings which runs around. So that's the normal anatomy of the lung that one should know. Now, a few words regarding the thymus. So the thymus will be enlarged in the pediatric age group in early infancy and less than 5 years. It can be rectangular, but it should be homogeneous density as the chest wall muscle. And as the child grows in the adolescent age group, the thymus involutes and it becomes triangular in shape, and the width of the thymus is normally 1.5 centimeter. This is the USG appearance of the thymus. It looks like echogenic striated appearance. So one should be familiar regarding the basic terminology or the patterns of the HRCT. So they can be divided into increased attenuation or decreased attenuation. So these are the examples of the increased attenuation on HRCT chest. So this is the example of consolidation in which the entire lung will be seen like this kind of increased density, and it will have this kind of patent airway, which will be looking like a black tram track like filling defect, which is known as air bronchogram sign. That's the consolidation. And this is the example of crazy brain, which indicates intra and interlobular septal thickening. This is the example of miliary density, which is small, tiny pinpoint density in the lung. And this is the example of ground glass opacity, which shows patchy areas of hazy increased density, but the vascular markings are preserved within that area. So that's the ground glass opacity. Now something on the decreased attenuation. So decreased attenuation, the examples include pneumocele, which we frequently seen in the complicated pneumonia, which will be surrounded by the consolidation or adjacent lung changes. On the contrary, the cyst is gas filled and well defined rounded structure, which has normal interface with the adjacent parenchyma. This is the example of varicose bronchiectasis, in which we are seeing this kind of irregular and abnormal dilatation of the bronchi, and which gradually forms this kind of cystic bronchiectasis as the severity worsens. This is the example of air trapping, in which we are seeing well-defined areas of air lucency with attenuated vascular markings. This happens whenever there is some bronchial wall thickening, or in a case of bronchiolitis obliterans. So that's the examples of air trapping. Now moving on to the last that is the role of last topic, that is the role of CT in airway evaluation with exemplary cases. So the airway evaluation on the CT should include from the nasal cavity to the lung parenchyma. We should use dynamic studies in special situations like tracheobronchomalacia, in which the airway significantly collapses more than 50% of the original diameter in the expiratory phases. And we also can use decubitus imaging in small babies in the special cases. For example, if the baby cannot spontaneously inspirate or expirate, we can use those kind of imaging. This is the example of showing the scan taken in inspiration and expiration. So we can see that the trachea is nice oval to circular, and the lucency will be, lung parenchyma will be more lucent. As compared to expiration scan, they will have some mild posterior bowing, and they will have this kind of easy increased opacity of the lung, but that doesn't indicate this is abnormal lung. So these are the different modalities which are used for the airway evaluation. USG being real time and cheaper, it is useful for the neck imaging, but not useful for the intrathoracic airway. CT being rapid and relatively cheap as compared to MRI, and it has got fairly good contrast resolution. It is useful for the all airway evaluation from the upper airway to the intrathoracic airways, and it is useful for dynamic imaging as well. MRI is useful only mainly for the upper airway when you are suspecting any oral or neck lesions. In that, by providing the excellent soft tissue contrast, MRI is used. And the drawbacks are MRI that it requires sedation, and it may not be that much useful for the dynamic imaging. These are a few case examples of the airway obstruction. We are starting from the nasal cavity. This is the example of choanal atresia, and we can see that narrowing and obstruction at the level of posterior choana, which can be bony or fibrous. Sometimes in a syndromic child, there will be cases of high arch palate. So this high arch palate, they can occlude significantly the nasopharyngeal airway and sometimes oropharyngeal airway passage, as in this case. In a case of Pierre-Robin syndrome, it is useful to assess the level and the extent of the narrowing, as well as we can see that we can simultaneously assess the retrogradnia and the microgradnia portion, which will be useful for the reconstruction. Patient with facial hemangiomas, for example, this was the case of parotid hemangioma, they can have associated airway vascular lesions as well. So sometimes CT is useful to pick up this kind of enhancing lesion, though they can be better picked up or assessed by the MRI. CT also may be useful in this kind of cases, and this is very important before before putting any endotracheal tube, because this can be vascular in nature and can bleed. Pulse of wisdom, whenever you're assessing the airway, you use the lung window for the assessment if you're taking consideration of diameter or something, because your mediastinal window can overestimate the tracheal outline. So this I have learned from my own personal past mistake. The MCT chest with contrast, it is very useful to differentiate special cases like this bridging bronchus case, in which CT helps in differentiating between the true carina versus the pseudo carina, and it is really useful in those kind of settings in which bronchoscopy also can fail. So using contrast helps in this kind of vascular anomaly, which will be compressing the airways. This is the same case of breathing bronchus, in which there was left pulmonary artery sling, which was arising from the right pulmonary artery, and it was causing compression of the right main bronchus, as we can see here. So this is possible by using contrast. CT reconstructed technique like lateral view, it gives the extent of the narrowing as well as the EP diameter, and it helps in planning the surgery as well as planning the anesthesia point of view. Neoplastic etiology like middle mediastinal masses, they can also compress the airway. This is also a case of suspected lymphoma, which was causing this kind of significant narrowing of the airway. And these are the lung window, which is showing that significant, almost total near occlusion of the right main bronchus. And it was causing this kind of narrowing and secondary hyperinflation of the right lower lobe in the form of expansion and the more loosened lungs. So these are some additional clue when you are looking at the CT images. If you are seeing some asymmetrical areas of hyperinflation, always look for any bronchus or major airway obstruction supplying that area. A few words regarding the COVID-19, since it's a pandemic. COVID ranges from mild to very severe manifestation. This was a case of very severe manifestation on the lung HRCT, which indicates this kind of peripheral to central areas of ground glass opacity with this kind of linear atelectasis, which had come to our hospital. But CT usually have this kind of spectrum of imaging. The typical imaging finding includes this kind of fluffy to rounded ground glass opacity, which are multilobar, but they can be focal asymmetrical as in this case, which can convert into consolidation, or they can have this kind of rarely crazy waving pattern also. So to conclude, we should be thorough with the basics of the CT and its reconstructed techniques, and that makes our life easy to understand the pathology. The normal anatomy on the CT should be known so that we can differentiate from the pathology. CT is very, very useful for the airway obstruction, and we should use it whenever it is indicated, but we should use it with the principle of LRA, and keeping the phases as low as possible, and keeping the KVs and MS and radiation factors as low as possible whenever it's required. So as a part of the pediatric radiology department, we have taken a pledge that we should image gently and we should not unnecessarily radiate our patient. And this is our staff, and we would like to acknowledge all of our hospital who has contributed.